sorry, I couldn't get your question.
You were a coach that you coached all kinds of teams. You had teams that.
Hey, say it in English. That Gunner?
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Yeah, very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Monday Peel Yourself Off the Mat edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest. We got the professor. Very fortunate to have the professor with us. Well, he really got stuck with this one here. Are you still keeping Lubie's dog as well?
Yes, we've got the wolf here. As you can tell from my shirt, which is just covered in white dog hair.
And it was appropriate you played a little Lubie clip there. How old is that thing? Is that like 20 years ago?
No, it's probably closer to 10. But
10?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty old.
That comes from the high school football. Well, we were doing a high school show. It wasn't necessarily all football.
No, that was part of the Marvin Jones show, actually.
Oh, really? I thought that was from Landlubbers, and Lubie finally got Bobby Bowden. Oh, that was when your kicker friend
Richie
got Bowden to call in.
Yep.
What was Richie's last name? I forgot.
And Richie Andrews, the great Richie Andrews of Florida State of the Fumblerooski fame.
Yes, and he gets Bobby Bowden to call in on a show that Lubie is hosting. So that was at the Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar?
No, it was Landlubbers, actually.
Oh, Landlubbers. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was a Landlubbers connection there.
Yeah,
anyway, and Lubie finally gets a chance to ask his idol, Bobby Bowden, a question. And Bowden, who, I mean, how many times has he been probably doubled over, ready to vomit, being repulsed by Mama's meatloaf as he tries to pretend everything is okay and this stuff is wonderful. So he can handle a lot of things, but he couldn't handle Lubie's rapid fire delivery.
He was so excited.
And he got a dadgummit out of him.
He was so excited.
That was classic. Yeah. And now I don't even want to get into, the possibility there might have been a stain on his pants as he was doing this. But sometimes it is hard to talk while orgasming, right? Anyway, he would have loved it here today. I mean, can you imagine? This is his favorite type of stuff. NBA speculation, off-season trades, maneuvers, free agency. Nobody spends more time dwelling on this than when Mike Lubie Lubitz, the rest of us, when it comes to the NBA, as big of a basketball.
Does he enjoy it, or does he enjoy just bitching about everybody's out to get the Heat? No one wants to trade with Riley. They're trying to rip us off.
And of course, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. The ability to unload a stiff. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks here on the show with regard to the Jimmy Butler story. And you just can't get rid of this guy. I mean, you finally got some sucker that's willing to take this guy. And it's the Golden State Warriors. They're in, deep negotiations and conversations with Riley and his crew. And Jimmy says, you know what? Fuck you. I ain't going there. And if I do, I'll never sign a long-term contract. So they're not going to part ways with some actual tangible capital in terms of personnel and draft picks.
Nobody is at this point.
Year.
And look, you are now with the Heat Jimmy Butler situation where it's just a salvage job. Well, get what you can get. And unfortunately, in the Heat's case, probably what they can get is draft picks, but the Heat don't care about draft picks. They just throw draft picks away year after year. So,
and the last time draft picks were mentioned, they were in 2031.
Yeah. Well,
Pat Riley's got to be looking at the clock there. And you would have to say that the shot clock is certainly ticking on a guy who's in his 80s, no matter what kind of incredible human being he is and how well he keeps himself in shape. So I'm watching the Knicks and the Lakers on Saturday night. I tune into this game sort of late, and it's always interesting. You probably will not be a fan of this, but I still have a little bit of Laker blood in me from my days out in Los Angeles. I'm
not anti-Lakers.
Covering Laker games. Do they get way more attention than they deserve in seasons where they're sort of irrelevant? Yeah. Are they always going to be in the spotlight because LeBron James is there? Yes. If you hated LeBron James his entire career and hope for him to, just disappear, Bronny, the whole situation there, you still would have to admit that what he's doing is pretty remarkable. 22 years in the league, and I mean, he was a monster in that ballgame against the Knicks, but it seemed unfathomable to me. I mean, there was no mention of any of this at any time. Had you heard even the slightest bit of speculation? Now, and you, if anybody, Professor, would have been onto this because you were onto this early on, what may have been part, at least, however small a part it might have been. I do believe it was part of the equation there with Dallas's desire to go ahead and even entertain the idea of losing Luka Doncic,
It
either
was?
to trade
I
or
don't-
free agency. Well, because you were the one that spotted Luka's family in the crowd and correctly made the correlation to the fact that and what is Luka? Serbian? Luka Serbian? Okay, because does his family not remind you of the Romanian crime family that was
No, no,
taken
no,
to
no.
Peyton
His
Arnold?
family reminds me of the people you see in that part of the world that are just drinking 24 hours a day. That every time you could see them at 8 o'clock in the morning, and dad's got a beer in his hand, mom is slugging down vodka. Like not to be
And it's all day long.
not to be stereotyped to that part of the world, but you've seen those that part of Europe. There's just a certain percentage of the population that seem like they are drunk 24 hours a day, and Luca's family certainly. Again, one of the most famous pictures of the finals last year is after the Mavs won the Western Conference Finals, and Luca's drinking a beer, and Michael Finley comes and takes it away from him, which allegedly, if you believe it, is part of what's going on here. Is that the Dallas Mavericks, as they're getting to Luka, getting all the money in the world, we're concerned about his lifestyle and his drinking and the fact that he gets notably out of shape and supposedly was getting worse every off season.
Yes, he's like Ricky Hatton between fights or
yeah, and how that plays into injuries and the fact that he seems to miss extended time every year, and they're worried that it's connected to his lack of conditioning.
Physically, when they started showing highlights of Luka's career, which hasn't been all that long. I mean, the guy's only 25 years old, but how long has he been in the league? He's been a 5-time
5 years, I think,
All-NBA
5, 6,
player.
yeah.
So what, 6 years maybe?
Yeah.
Is it that long? All right. So not even approaching his prime as an NBA player. But when you saw the early shots of him, now this is true of a lot of us, Professor, including myself, but and that's why we always say, and Andy is very appreciative of this concept, that when you go to reunions, especially if you're talking about 30, 40, 50-year reunions with your high school class or collegians or whatever, or any type of reunion, even a family reunion where you haven't seen people for a while, what's the first question most people ask you is,
What happened?
What happened to you?
Look,
but I mean, if you look at Luka's rookie season, where they showed some highlights, this guy is svelte and fairly trim. You wouldn't even recognize that he was the same guy because from a
I don't know that I'd go that far. Like,
his body has definitely changed, no doubt.
I think people are kind of overstating that. I think mentally, because of LeBron and because of other dudes in the league, we now expect NBA players to look like NFL players, like they're jacked up and muscled up and in incredible shape.
Most of them are, though.
But okay,
it would have to be just from an aerobic standpoint there to run
Jack
full in the NBA at that
Magic
pace.
Johnson didn't look like that. Larry Bird didn't look like that. Jordan sort of got muscly at the end, but when you look at him young, he's a skinny kid. Like,
but he wasn't overweight from
No, there used to be normal.
And
but that's the thing, Luka. People are making it out like Luka looks like me. And look, is he the most in shape player of all time? No. But, again, I'm not sure he's built like that. I'm not sure. Again, the best player in the NBA, Jokic, looks like a truck driver.
Yes.
Looks like he literally eats at Wawa 4 times a day.
Like he's running a bowling alley concession stand.
Yeah, like all these, supposed in shape concerns with Luka. Like the dude's averaging 30 and a double-double when he plays. So,
he's an amazing player. You don't have to necessarily
really be.
Yeah, sorry. You don't have to necessarily be the prototype body to be a great basketball player. And what's funny is, people used to constantly be disparaging about the round amount of rebound, Charles Barkley, and yet when you look at him, when he actually was tabbed as a round amount of rebound, the guy's looking like Jack LaLanne, like he just stepped off the cover of some physical fitness magazine.
Barkley went through different phases when he first got into the NBA. And he's talked about it. When he first started getting paid and could eat anything he wanted, he got fat those first couple of years. And then he slimmed down. And then he got to the point in Phoenix where, he looked like a pro wrestler. No, he was all, bowling balls for shoulders and, bulging biceps and everything. And now we see Barkley and he's a big fat guy. Some guys, that's just sort of their natural state. And, again, I'm not in the Dallas Mavericks locker room. I don't hang out in the city of Dallas. Luka could be out drinking every night for all I know, but it certainly doesn't seem to affect him on the court.
No. I mean, he might be the Sonny Jurgensen of the NBA, where a guy comes into the ball game and is completely trashed. I mean, Joe Willie, we talked about that the other day, where you could not have been more destroyed than Joe Willie was when he walked into the stadium that day, which I happened to witness firsthand at about 12 o'clock for the 1 o'clock kickoff for the AFC title game against the Oakland Raiders. And what does he do? Late in the ball game, he makes an heroic play. If you could quote the Mad Dog Jim Manich, I'm not sure that heroic really applies to sports, but makes a brilliant throw to Don Maynard. They win the ball game, go on, win Super Bowl III, change this landscape for the NFL into perpetuity. It never was the same after that. But all right, so let's look at this. I mean, one of the things. All right, you pointed out the brother of Luka would be a very intimidating person to approach. No doubt about that.
No, that's Jokic's brother. You're thinking of the
Oh,
Jokic.
I'm thinking of Jokic. Okay.
Like
I don't know why. Yeah, you're right. It's
like
the Jokic family I'm picturing.
Yeah, the Jokic
wonder I
family is the one that looks like they kidnapped Liam Neeson's daughter.
All right. So, I mean, lots of things have surfaced, but none of them overwhelmingly so. It's not like any of these things are being heavily overstated. That they're, is the perception out there now that Luka had kind of hinted that he may not.
I mean, the one thing you could
Dallas.
say with Luka, and this flashes back to one of my favorite sites ever. I don't think it's open anymore, but back in the heyday of drunkathlete.com, where Eli Manning famously was just crocked one night, and Roethlisberger pretty much constantly. The one thing you could say about Luka that does seem fair and maybe see a concern is it seems like every picture of him that's not on a basketball court, he has a beer in his hand.
Yeah.
So the drinking thing, I guess it could be a concern. You think about the media you've seen of him, I guess I could say it legitimate because it does, again, it seems like every time he's pictured, not actively playing basketball, he's drinking a beer. So I guess you could worry about that. But by the same token, he's 25 years old. Most 25-year-olds I know like to have a beer when they're not working. So
nothing like a cold one after a running full.
I can say from personal experience. Yes. And he says, as wearing a bearded shirt, the Great Cigar City Brewing of Tampa, one of my favorites. If you are a guy who likes to drink beer, it is going to impact you.
I start looking forward to my first Budweiser in the frozen mug.
Right, let's be honest.
2 miles from home on my.
They should just call beer fatso juice. I don't know anybody who really likes beer who's in great shape. I don't think those two things can coexist. You never really see a guy.
There are certain guys, though, that handle alcohol and never gain an ounce.
I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm talking about beer specifically.
Oh, just straight up beer?
Just straight up beer. If you know a guy who likes to have a six-pack of beer,
a six-pack, yeah. All right.
I am one of these people. So I'm putting myself into this category.
Yes.
You're not going to be in great shape. You never see a guy who enjoys a few beers who's also in great shape.
And he's ripped, yeah.
It's not a good combination for,
and that in and of itself, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Usually teams figure a guy of this talent. I mean, they're using the usual phraseology in describing Luka, and maybe accurately so. Generational talent. The guy's been
100%.
I mean, how many times has he just absolutely flabbergasted you at some movie made that you're thinking, wow, that's going to be a fucking brick of gigantic boulder-like proportions, and boom, it goes right in. Off shots where he's heavily pressured. I mean, it's not like this guy is left all alone and is just jacking him up from three until finally the coach says, hey, you better get out there and cover the schmuck. It doesn't work like that. Everybody knows that he is the entire fulcrum behind, even with Kyrie Irving out there, but behind the Dallas offense.
Well, that's the other possibility we haven't discussed. Is it possible? I can think of two things here. Number one, it's possible, unlikely, because I've never heard of it this way, but possible, that Kyrie Irving's batshit insanity has gone viral and airborne in the Dallas Mavericks.
He seems to be completely sedate. You would not even know he was on the Dallas Mavericks. You would have to actually think about it.
Now, is that the case because Kyrie Irving has normalized, or is that the case because, again, Kyrie Irving's batshit insanity has gone viral around the Dallas Mavericks, and that's the reason Kyrie Irving now seems like normal because now everybody else is crazy too. So Kyrie Irving doesn't seem. I mean, look, let's be honest. that whole Mark Cuban being like Kamala Harris's biggest supporter, he did not look sane in a lot of those video clips. It looked like he had gotten a little,
Well, and also, I mean,
nutty. And then now,
yeah, go ahead.
the new owner, Miriam Adelson, is of course the biggest Donald Trump supporter. I'm not joking. Literally donated more money to Donald Trump's campaign than anybody else on the planet. Is it possible she got the inside tip that the next White House move is going to be to start to deport Euro basketball players? And so
Very
she's like, let's get Luka out of here because these guys are on their way home.
They should start with
now.
eliminating the Euro step from being considered anything but a blatant travel, which is one
How
of the
funny would that be if we got that
I mean, and people are praising, hey, look at that, he did the Euro step. It's like, yeah, he took 4 fucking steps to the basket there. I mean, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry, how bit funny would that be if, like, in a week we got that? So we're going to make the NBA American again.
Maybe Trump has a piece.
Deporting
sold out his majority interest. In fact, I think he owns like a fractional piece of the Mavericks now, and supposedly was in the dark about this, as was Jason Kidd. This is what amazed me. I'm watching a game Saturday night, no mention of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There had been, as far as I could tell, no speculation whatsoever about any discontent between the Mavericks and Luka Doncic. All of this stuff about the fact that they were concerned that he came to camp every year out of shape. Just surfaced after the fact. You didn't hear a lot
Shaq did, by the way, also.
Yeah, so and it wasn't necessarily. It's more uncommon today, where guys are playing ball year round and come to camp whenever in all sports in much better condition than they used to. I mean, I don't think Yogi Berra was in the best of shape when he showed up in Fort Lauderdale after selling insurance in the offseason. And we all know that you talk to any old school football player, and training camp was largely devised to get these guys in condition. But
it's funny. Flashing back to doing the Marvin Jones show. Marvin talked about in his rookie year with the Jets, he showed up to the locker room like the first day, and before practice, guys are smoking cigarettes and having beer.
Exactly. Yeah,
like in the locker room.
The Snake had a cigarette on the sidelines. Who was it there? There's a classic picture. Was it Len Dawson?
It is. It's Len Dawson.
Dawson smoking a cigarette there while he's playing football. It used to be like, when I mean, not that it required this much athleticism, but on a pro bowler store, you had like Carmen Salvino with a beer and a cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
As he got ready to, try to finish off a 300 in the Firestone Tournament of Champions. It was not that uncommon. But I mean, none of this was out there. There was no noise whatsoever. When do you ever see that? A blockbuster deal in the NBA?
I mean, but here's the thing. If you are NBA conspiracy guy, and I am not, but if you are of the belief that the NBA is only slightly less scripted than the WWE, it goes to the Lakers again. It's always the freaking Lakers.
Always, yes.
As we've been pointing out, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Paul. Remember that one got voided, but Chris Paul was just by surprise going to Lakers.
They somehow ended up with Kobe. Yeah.
LeBron James, and now Luka Doncic. Again, I mean, the Kobe one was a fairly legitimate trade. I don't think anybody necessarily knew on draft night that Kobe was going to become Kobe.
Right.
But and that excludes Magic Johnson and James Worthy, who were both acquired back when the Cleveland Cavaliers used to literally sell their draft picks.
Right.
And sold the picks to Magic Johnson and James Worthy. So, like, pretty much every era of the Lakers' dominance has been fueled by, I guess, can we say highly suspicious trade or acquisition?
Possibly. I mean, when I was covering the Lakers just before they became the Showtime Lakers, and their best player was Cornell Warner, I think.
No, Kareem was on those teams.
Kermit Washington might have been their best guy. But no, they had some lousy teams before they made that trade. What was it? It was Brian Winters. It was Dave Myers and Junior Bridgman for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And at the time, people were pretty high on those three guys. Myers was a big hero at UCLA.
They always talk up the other guys in these trades. I remember when the Barkley trade to Phoenix happened, and Phoenix literally trade away something like 3 starters and 2 high rotation bench players. It was like, oh, this is as good as you can do for a superstar. The Sixers are going to the playoffs for
Yeah.
a long time. And then, the next year, Phoenix is in the finals and Philly's in the lottery.
And that process, I mean, was never ending. That's for sure. Still to this day, after this embarrassment that took place last night, I know Embiid wasn't playing, but to give up and have an evaporate a 26-point lead at some point in a ball game and lose by like 8 points to the Boston Celtics last night. That was a travesty.
Seemed
But
like
but
it was
I'm
divided
watching. I'm
in
watching. Again,
Kansas
no
City
mention of
college
any of this,
basketball.
but with Doncic and it's not like Anthony Davis is not a named player in the NBA. I mean, a guy's leading the Lakers in every category: scoring, rebounding, assists, blocks, steals, virtually everything. In spite of the fact that LeBron looks great this year again, which is pretty remarkable. I don't know. Is Panama Lewis the trainer for the Los Angeles Lakers? How are they keeping this guy?
I mean, LeBron famously spends something like $2 million a year on his body. If you're going to put that kind of cash in it,
Yeah.
I guess you do want some kind of return, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Phyllis Diller spent that much on her face. It didn't work out so well.
But it's LeBron. Like,
Oh, and by the way, I don't know what you thought of this. Just a complete aside, but it still is hard to make the connection. Beyonce Best Country Album from the Grammys last night, and then when Jay-Z walked up to her, did he not say, "I bought you that, sweetheart"?
I
Did you
didn't
see
watch
that?
any
I
of
mean,
the Grammys.
did you watch any of this stuff?
I don't watch awards shows. Like, I don't understand how people sit through that crap.
Well, I mean, and the Grammys, at least you're inclined to see some very high level, big show type of entertainment.
I mean, maybe if you're
They had
into
your man
it,
Bruno Mars out there, and he did a great job.
I'm sure he did. It's not the kind of thing I'm going to tune. I don't watch any. I'm going to be honest. Award shows are the height of stupidity.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them
It's
either.
a bunch of super rich and famous people celebrating themselves and dressing up in idiot costumes. And,
Right. I
look,
think Kanye West had his
yeah, she was naked. I did see that picture. It's his
that
wife
was circulating widely around
in a
the
see-through
universe.
dress, which, hey, I mean, if you look like
Okay,
she
so you
does,
might be a bit of an attention grabber, is what you're saying. If you're
if you
celebrating
look like
yourself.
if you look like she does, and you want to be out naked in public, I don't think anybody's going to complain.
You're hearing very little flack about that. He got a lot
Yeah.
more flack for interrupting Taylor Swift when she was giving her acceptance speech about Album of the Year. And this was in the past when he thought Beyonce got robbed, as if she was
That's-
Marvin Hagler in the Sugar Ray Leonard fight.
I mean, it probably wasn't wrong. Like, Beyonce's really talented. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a huge.
But the best country album, I mean, they got all these country people out there, and they got the hats on and the whole fucking thing. And they had to be. I really, if you see this moment where it's announced that she won, and nothing against her or whatever. I mean, I don't happen to be somebody that's involved enough with her music to say, yeah, I'm sure she's very, very talented or whatever. I'm not a big fan of that style of music. So now she goes country, and all you have to do is sing. I mean, how stupid of a song is Jolene, which is a big hit.
Oh
Dolly
boy,
Parton
let's
had.
start criticizing Dolly Parton on the show here. We'll have every 40-year-something woman blitzing our.
Nothing
YouTube
against
page.
Dolly. She seems like an absolute
I
sweetheart.
think
and
Jolene's a pretty solid song. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the
I
greatest
couldn't
thing.
even think of another verse. They had to say the name like 6 times. What are you talking about? You're sitting.
I mean,
there-
honestly, is it any better than Kenny Rogers? I mean, is it any worse than everything Kenny Rogers put out? Like a song
Look
called
where
The
I
Gambler
mean-
that features the worst gambling advice of all time. You got to know when to hold them.
Oh yeah.
Know when to fold them. What the fuck does that mean? Give me some individual cards here, Kenny.
Yeah.
The
Come
fuck are
on.
you talking? And then the other one is about a gang rape. The coward of the county.
It's not like
She
he's
was
dancing
by
with
herself,
Honor,
and
like,
the Gatlin boys came calling, and there was 3 of them. Well, so they gang raped her, is what you're saying. And his revenge was he doesn't call the cops, he doesn't shoot him, he goes and beats him up in a bar. How is that equitable for them committing a gang rape?
See, I knew that if I introduced the topic of country music, you would
People
have.
didn't realize Kenny Rogers was fucking dark when he was selling those chickens.
Yeah.
You didn't think of him as, oh, that's the gang rape song guy. Nobody would have gone
Like
to
a decent guy. What are you talking?
Nobody would have gone to eat that fucking chicken if they had really looked at lyrics to Coward of the
But
County.
you have to think the entire world of country music is completely shaken to its core. That somebody just stepped in there, sang a version of Jolene, which for my money, it just is the epitome of stupidity when it comes to a country song, and managed to get album of the year of the fucking year.
I think there are much stupider country songs.
All
Like
right.
all this modern country crap that is all just product placement. And like there's like 10 of them. They all look Jason Aldean or what I don't even
They're
remember.
all selling Chevrolets.
They
That's
all
the
look
reason
exactly.
right
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The songs are literally like, got into my Chevrolet truck with the man step, was wearing my Wolverine work boots, had a Corona Light or had a Bud Light Lime. Like it's all product placement. Like you could, you're just naming shit to go out and buy. Not even a song.
That's it. No, there's no lyric, in the song anymore that has anything to do with romance drama.
My wife left me and she was wearing her Lee Wrangler jeans while she did.
Eating famous Amos cookies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, I don't know if they're shouting out restaurants. Oh wait, no, yeah, we do shout restaurants. One of them has an album called The Waffle House. I mean, look, I'm not. You do you. That's just sort of the way. It's not like music videos didn't become pure product placement. But like, if you listen to some of those modern country songs, it's all just
it's
corporate sponsorship.
Commercialization. It's it's unfortunate, but anyway, that was just an aside to all of this speculation here, Professor. About I love when you get going on country music, though. See,
I mean, it's true. Like modern country music is just a commercial.
Should be abandoned. I mean, should be if you were going to have Trump sign some kind of executive.
Remember my favorite infomercial of all time, the Blue Blockers, where they got some freak off the street to rap about the blue blockers. That's modern country music. Is just the guy rapping about blue blockers, except they've substituted in a bunch of new products.
Not
other
that
than
guy
blue blockers
was a setup in the infomercial by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly. He just happened to be rapping about blue blockers on the corner while they were shooting an infomercial for blue blockers.
I figured somehow we were probably going to dedicate about half the show to this Doncic Anthony Davis deal. I mean, ultimately, what do you make of it, Professor? And I know everybody has their opinion. Look, if you're the Lakers,
I think it's a conspiracy.
You have a guy, maybe it'd be there 10 years.
I'm going to be honest, and I have no proof of this. I can't. I'm not Kevin Costner, JFK. I'm not going to. Luka got traded back to the left. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence they ended up on the freaking Lakers. I don't think it's a coincidence.
The only team, too, that the Dallas GM, Nico Harrison, will go down forever in infamy if Luka goes on for 10 years of stardom and Anthony Davis blows out a knee in the second game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence it's the Lakers. I don't think it's a coincidence that the complaint was, well, he can't stay healthy because he stays in bad shape. Well, you traded for a guy who stays in great shape but can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Who's injured every year.
He's injured now.
I don't think it's a coincidence that this happened at the same time where the NBA's television ratings are absolutely in the toilet.
Yeah.
And he got traded to, the team that was supposed to be the feature team, was supposed to be the team that carried the league for 5 or 6 years. I don't think Anthony Davis is a bum, but if you're complaining the problem with Luka is you don't want to pay him because he's never healthy, well, you traded for a guy who misses the playoffs half the time.
He is one fall to the floor away from being out for the next 6 weeks.
And honestly,
but he's been playing great. He really has been sensational.
And honestly, it's always the freaking Lakers. It's not like they're the only big
you are right about that. Yeah,
in the league, it's never the Knicks.
But if you saw Pebble Beach yesterday, I know this isn't L.A. It's north of L.A. by a considerable margin.
Who won that, by the way? Did Rose win it? Because I was going to be losing I couldn't watch it.
No, you're
Rose
okay.
won, I was going to lose my mind.
He had a minor collapse towards the end.
Good.
Your boy Rory McIlroy ended up winning it, and he
PC had him.
He took this. I mean, it was remarkable, wasn't it? There was like a 6-way tie at 18 under, or there were like 7 or 8 guys within one shot of the lead, or so it seemed. The Straka man, who was leading through 3 rounds, was starting to fade, and he was having his problems. He still ended up, I think, 15 under, which was 6 off the pace. But McIlroy, I mean, does that not look like, if you hated golf, how could you not want to go out there and at least walk around the grounds there at Pebble Beach? Those aerial shots they show, and then the water banking up there again. Some of the hole designs, just incredible. I've only been through there once. I never actually walked out on the course. I don't know. Have you been to that area?
I've been to the area. I've never been to Pebble Beach.
I stopped in the clubhouse for a very expensive drink just because of the inherent beauty of the place that you see depicted on TV. Even on the shittiest of days, it looks like a place you would want to be.
Doesn't some famous announcer live there? Doesn't like Joe Buck or Jim Nance
I
live
think
on
Nance
Pebble Beach?
might have a place there, and if he does, what a lucky son of a bitch.
I seem to remember they were showing that tournament one year, and like Nance just wandered into the booth because he was 3 doors down. And,
came out of the pool,
yeah,
towel, and that was it. But
McElroy Nance lives there makes me not want to ever go. By the way, just so.
It's just beautiful. And then if you catch a day where the sun is actually shining, which I guess is every other leap year in July, just absolutely one of the most beautiful sights you'll ever see. I mean, it makes you think, my God, this really is like one hell of a country. But McElroy, he earned it. He definitely did. He shoots one over the trees on, I think it's 13, is a par 5. And you have to take it like right over like some redwoods or something. And if you do that, it's kind of like that hole in the British Open. I forget which course it is where you have to aim over the building.
St. Andrews, the last 18 at St. Andrews.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not very good at that. I don't know about you, Professor. Did you ever dabble in golf at all?
I dabbled very, very poorly. I am a nightmare at golf.
I mean, if I'm hitting the ball and trying to eclipse the height of a building on a drive, that thing is ricocheting like it was a rebote in highlight.
I do that at Top Golf. You know that at Top Golf they've got those 2 little bumpers on the side.
Oh yeah, you see.
I do that like at least once or twice every time I go to Top Golf, where it's just a total shankopotamus, and you hear this bang like somebody just shot a rifle, and it's because I've ricocheted one off the bumpers on the side there. Look, it's another reason I love Charles Barkley is because
that golf swing, yeah.
He's got every fat guy golf swing who's not like Craig Stadler or John Daly ever. Like
how does he not wrench his neck and get one of those?
If you are not amazing golfer and you're a fat guy, you have that Charles Barkley golf swing where you're like, oh, my back, and you don't really get the full backswing because you can't really stretch that far. And
now Daly's fat now, but I mean when he was considered fat, and the same thing with the Walrus, Craig Stadler. I saw the Walrus. Now, maybe he had dropped some weight from his playing days. But I saw him after one of those, what was then the senior tour, now the celebrity golf. No, not celebrity champions tour. And I mean, he was like we were talking about with Barkley. I mean, he was svelte by comparison to most males his age.
I mean,
we always knew him for having that gut. I mean, it was like
he may have lost weight by the time you knew him.
Yeah,
I mean, by the time you met him, but I don't think you get the nickname the Walrus because you're felt.
I remember when he only had one pair of slacks, and then he incurred that penalty, cost him a tournament because some asshole in the viewing audience called into the CBS truck and said what he just did there. He put a towel underneath his knee as he was leaning under a tree. He was going to have to kneel down to hit a shot just to get the ball, shovel the ball out of there back into the fairway. So he puts a towel down. I'm thinking because he only has one pair of brown Sansabelt slacks. And this was in the Saturday.
I was unaware of this, but that sounds like a very
good. A guy calls the director of CBS. What was it? Chernoff was the guy's name or something like that. And says, hey, the fucking guy just cheated there on 16 or whatever it was. And they penalized him 2 strokes and it cost him the tournament.
Because he put a towel down?
Because he put a towel and it was called Building a Lie.
Oh, my God. Like that's, the
guy's got one fucking pair of pants that fit him. I mean, give him a break.
Didn't somebody do that to Dustin Johnson in like?
Same thing. Yeah, he moved.
Like if some fan called in and I saw it on TV. Jerk off.
Well, it didn't look like a sand trap. I think that was in a U.S. Open, and the ball was lying in some typical muck that you would hit the ball into if you were a duffer, where you find the one spot that like you would never want to be in, as remote as it was from the tee box, and there's your fucking ball. Like. These guys, though, are amazing. There were some trouble shots made, consecutively that were just unbelievable.
Okay.
In this
so
tournament.
That costs him tournaments. But the year where Spieth hits the ball 3 holes over.
That was garbage, yeah.
And CBS has to freeze coverage for 30 minutes and they play a Little Rascals episode because they're moving the TV tower as goddamn Spieth needs to have a clear path to the green. Yeah, okay.
Spieth was in like one of those garbage dumps, where it was like trash piled up 20 feet high. It looked like you were.
For people don't remember, he had shanked it so badly off the tee. You know those ones, and you see it pretty much every tournament.
Yes.
where a guy will hit it over to the next hole accidentally. He did that, except he hit it like 3 holes over. And
Yeah.
and like all the TV equipment was blocking his path. They literally, was it the British? I was thinking U.S.
That was a British Open that you lost when your boy Kuchar.
Yeah. Again,
got
they like,
fucked on
we need
that
to
same hole.
we need to take a commercial break. We'll be back in a few minutes. We need to move all the TV equipment so Jordan can hit a second shot. What the fuck?
And then he dropped in the fairway. That was the beauty of it. I mean, he was literally as blocked as you could possibly be. But anyway, I forget the guy's name. He's been kind of approaching the top level. Tall guy with giant secretariat type teeth. I mean, it's hard to. It's hard to decipher the difference between golfers sometimes, but this guy kind of stands out. Anyway, he hits a ball. I mean, it's lodged in the trunk of a tree, basically, and there's no way to even get a club on this thing. And he's got to traverse a sand trap. He's sort of in contention, maybe to finish in a tie with like 9 other guys for third, but it was going to be some significant dollars, I think. And I don't know. Do they care anymore about like a pressure putt, Professor? What do you think?
I don't think so.
If it's
it makes
a
so much money,
$50,000 difference or $100,000 difference,
unless it's like the random club pro who always sticks around at the U.S. Open for a couple rounds, I don't think any of those guys who are on the regular
guys at the top, they probably don't give a fuck. I mean, it's not like Lee Trevino putting for par there. But anyway, I mean, and this thing, I don't know if it was just a fluke. But I mean, he traverses the trap. It lands on the green. Now, this had to be a wicked spitball. I mean, like Fernando Valenzuela couldn't put this much spin on a fucking ball. And it just spins back to the cup there, and he ends up birdieing the hole.
I honestly, I wonder about that with golf all the time. And look, all those dudes can do stuff with a golf club and a golf ball that no normal human being will ever hope.
Amazing. Scheffler, who actually contended, even though, did he really cut himself with a glass? He cut his hand with a glass as he was cutting up sausage or something.
Wouldn't it be great with all this stuff with Scotty Scheffler was actually like secretly he's a criminal or so, like secretly
he's always in some minor
he's
thing,
got
right?
this like if the Louisville cops arrested him because he's wanted in 47 states, but the PGA covered it up and go, oh no, it's just this stupid traffic thing. Like if the cut on of his hand was from a knife fight instead of just accidentally.
It's very possible, that he's sicker than James Conn and the Gambler.
Like if Scotty Scheffler is secretly like the world's greatest assassin or something like that, and that's why he gets all
well
this.
be. I mean, it
would be so much more of an interesting story than Scotty Scheffler,
stiff,
world's most boring human being who also happens to be the best golfer in the world.
Yeah, he don't even have like an oh shucks thing. I mean, it's just like he's just a stiff, man. But wow, I mean, I have to give it to him. Even when he has like nothing going, he still, you can see why he was only plus 350. All right, we're going to come back with more here. It's Super Bowl week. The teams have landed in New Orleans. Later in the week, I always look forward to this. It's an annual affair here on these shows. The professor will join us, although he'll have the luxury of joining us later in the program.
Damn right.
What do we have? One more day of this?
One more day of this nonsense.
Yeah. Okay, good.
One more day of waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
The fans have taken to you, and of course, they're accustomed to you. And the segment you'll do on Friday, which would be the most bizarre Super Bowl props. How just before we run these very important messages here, how inclined are you to buy, like when you see CBSSports.com had a thing, which a lot of sites, I guess, do. Maybe even Bleacher Brothers has one where they ran the model through a computer like 10,000 times to determine the outcome of the Super Bowl. And do you buy into those results?
Absolutely not.
Like, would it matter? I mean, you still can't account for the fact that Travis Kelce gets hit in the forehead with a ball and it falls to the ground. I mean, can you really judge all of that by computer?
Okay, I could tell you. When I was in high school, there was a software, and this is like the MS-DOS days. There was a software group called XOR who did a simulation called NFL Challenge, I think. And then there was another one, Lance Hafner Games, who it was strictly a text-based games. Right. And I used to do this when I was like 13 and 14 years old. I would update all the
Already a
stats,
sick degenerate. Nice.
and be simulating these games hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's all nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
I can't say it's all nonsense, but it can't account for the things that happen in literally every game. That, again, look at college basketball this weekend. Kansas blows a 20-point lead.
Yes.
Literally has never happened before. So, how are you going to account for that half of basketball where, your team can't make a bucket, or the one where literally everything the other team, throws up goes in?
Sure.
I mean, that's the great thing, entirely why we like and watch sports.
Every day's a new day.
Is because what's supposed to be on paper, usually something happens that hasn't happened on paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if they played the games on paper, everything would be very easy.
It would make no sense. The entertainment quotient completely shot. There were some streaks that went up in smoke, too. We'll get into that. College basketball, especially, two big ones, where you're looking and going, really? How did that happen? I guess all things must pass, as George Harrison so aptly stated. And then the Wizards snapped their 16-game losing streak. So
Defo's favorite, the Washington Wizards.
I love the Wizards, yeah. I liked them when they were the Bullets and they had Earl of Pearl Monroe back in the days when Gene Shue had the crew cut and the high top.
One of my favorites of all time.
He was wearing like the same shoes as like Vince Lombardi wore on the sidelines. Gene Shue.
Again, one of my favorites of all time, Wes Unseld. Like this.
Oh, Wes Unseld. We love Wes.
Wes was what, like 6'6" and 6'7"?
6'7" and like huge.
Probably close to 300 pounds, although I think they said he was like 250 or 260.
And he never looked too happy, did he, Wes?
Well, he was always throwing 7-foot dudes around like a sumo wrestler. Yeah.
Oh, he was amazing, and a rebounding machine. Had a great outlet pass, Wes Unseld also. All right, we're going to come back with more of the professor, and glad to have him on board here, filling in. Also, I think we finally ignited some new sources and platforms here with the great AJ Johnson and Bleacher Brothers now picking us up on a YouTube channel.
Well, we'll definitely connect with the youth with Wes Unseld talk here.
Yeah, well, people should look it up. You know what's funny? Like when I was a kid, and we were, everybody was just a huge sports fan, but we were very much, digging into the history of sports and had great respect for shit that happened. Like, I'm growing up in the 50s, so, it's a long time ago, DeForest. It really is. But we would like sort of admire, like studying the history of stuff that happened even before 1900 or whatever. But
I don't think kids
don't do this today. No, there's no chance, because I was with my grandkids yesterday, and they're like sprawled out on the in the booth at Louis Bossi's. We're at in Boca Raton, and their phone is 1 inch from their eyeballs, and that's it. That's what kids are doing, man. And they couldn't be any more as inept as I am with any kind of technological thing, like even just turning on a computer. These guys are like light years ahead of everybody. My 9-year-old grandson Liam says that someday Jeff Bezos will be working for me. That was my favorite statement of the day yesterday.
Okay.
All right. There's ambition there. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show with the professor. We'll get into these streaks that went up in smoke there. Two big ones in college basketball. Back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:00.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305 453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters?
All right, welcome back to the show. I can't understand why Bobby Bowden had any difficulty whatsoever determining what it was that Lubie was asking.
Well, not to blow one of our sponsors,
Yeah.
but I was sitting there thinking during the break, what a week it would be to be just hanging out at Jimmy Johnson's at the Big Chill.
Oh my God!
This weather we're having, where it's not hot, but it's not cold either. It's like upper 70s, nice light breeze. That would be the life, man. How is Lubie in Spain and we're not hanging out at the Big Chill this week? That's where we should be.
We should have pushed that a little harder and tried to make some arrangements to be down there. Spectacular place, by the way.
And if you love the NFL people around there
Always,
yeah.
Like, Aikman's at the bar there, down a couple. Here comes Nick Saban in to say hello to everybody. Belichick, your favorites at the sports.
Yeah, my favorite.
Pretty incredible. All right, a couple of things. And now I would have to admit, and you're trying to figure out what direction to go in as a degenerate and or even a sports fan after this will be the last football game upcoming. And I'd have to say I was more heavily immersed in football over other sports than ever before this season for some reason. College pro football, I watched an awful lot of it. And, I was a big fan of both and what transpired this year leading up to this Super Bowl. And the other sports kind of got pushed in the background. I haven't been watching a lot of NBA. College basketball is not a secondary consideration for me necessarily, but I would have to admit to only having the most slight of peripheral views of what's gone on. And yet, as you try to transition into where is it going to be, after the Super Bowl game. I know you're already pretty well immersed in college basketball. A lot of blockbuster stuff, though, was taking place. Now Iowa State has started to fall apart a little bit. I think they've lost 3 of 5, and they lose at home, snapping a 29-game home winning streak. And then on top of that, the University of Houston had a 33-game home winning streak, and that also went bye-bye. Sayonara to that over the weekend as well. Calipari, what did you make of that? Coming back to Kentucky and wins with a 1-6 SEC record against the Wildcats. Wins on the road and seemed to be in fairly decent control of that game throughout, wire to wire.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you see these Kentucky coaches once in a while. Like it honestly seems like every other one, or maybe every third, where it's just oh, he's going to get fired quick. And I really like Pope, but I don't think he's long for that particular world. I mean, you can't lose that ball game to Cal coming back, and
they whipped out Tubby Smith to inspire the crowd. I mean, they had a lot of things.
Another guy who did a good job, but was not long for that particular world,
right?
Along with Billy Gillespie.
Did they have the embalmed body of Adolph Rupp out there on the court?
It just seems like, honestly, we're set up for, and I don't know who the big name will be. Maybe it'll be Hurley. Maybe they'll just come and dump $20 million a year instead of 10 on his desk. But it seems like we're set up for that Kentucky phase. Where this guy's going to be there 2 years, and then somebody huge who we're not into. Hell, it might be Pat Riley for all I know. Reliving his glory days with Rupp's runts.
I don't know that 80-year-old thing. It's hard to imagine that. The great Pat Riley's 80.
I don't actually think it's going to be Pat Riley, but
I know that. But
it's going to be some huge name that we are not prepared for.
Sure. Yeah, you might think Hurley. I don't know. He's so psychotic. This guy.
Yes, he is.
Can you imagine? I don't know. Money. Obviously, he could have taken his Lakers job and made bags of money. Not sure. I doubt that he anticipated it. Did you see Jason Kidd, by the way, at the press conference? It reminded me so much of that Robin Givens, Ruth Roper, Barbara Walters press conference with Mike Tyson.
Where they just clearly drugged the hell out of him.
Yeah, where the guy's like on Thorazine or something.
Yeah,
He's like,
There's
yeah, I
an
beat her
entire
like a
handful
drum.
of lithium, Mike. Swallow that down.
Catatonic state. And here's Jason Kidd, who's, not the most animated guy at these press conferences.
He's pretty low key to begin with.
Yes. I mean, you don't even know if he's got a pulse sometimes when he's speaking. Although, he obviously has done a favorable job there in Dallas. I would think he's proved his competency as a coach.
Also, like Mike Tyson had a psychotic ex-wife who wanted to be an actress.
Yes, remember that when she was just cursing him out, Joanna Wanabana. And people were taking shots. I mean, this is particularly in poor taste at the physicality of his kid.
Yeah.
Who she had on the lap there and was holding up going, he's going to hate you just like I do. Shaking this poor fucking kid like he was some kind of voodoo doll. And, and what is she doing courtside? They couldn't find security. Where's James Dolan or somebody like that when you need him?
Charles Oakley should just travel.
They could kick Oakley out of the Madison Square Garden where he's fucking beloved. They could have gotten rid of Joanna. It was obviously a different team, the Nets, right?
Yeah.
But wow, I'll never forget that. But anyway, he looked like Tyson when this Nico Harrison was explaining, well, you know what? I woke up one day and I had the idea, why don't we get rid of fucking Doncic? He's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. If you're the coach in that situation.
Let's
be honest. If you're a coach in the NBA and you're not like one of the two guys who are like a super genius.
Yes.
Where look, I don't think anybody's fooling themselves about where the Heat are, but Spoelstra's not getting blamed at all. Like nobody's, there's a few guys in the NBA. Mysteriously, one of them is Doc Rivers. Like no matter how much he sucks, everybody.
They own every job.
1 year with the Celtics, and they're like, oh yeah, Doc Rivers. So like in the NBA, you're either a super genius or you're completely expendable. And you're completely expendable. They will fire you at the drop of a freaking hat. So you just got to sort of do what Jason Kidd does and just be very low key and, hope that something will happen to elevate you to that super G.
He went to the finals last year.
We're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
Mazzola went from being the biggest idiot in the league. And then they trade him this super loaded team in Boston where like really you pretty much got to make an effort to fuck this up.
Yeah.
And on top of it, he gets this playoff run where literally every good player on every other team he plays gets injured.
Yes.
But now he's Joe Mazzola's super genius. I was like, wait, a year ago he was an idiot.
You know what though? He has white guys contributing off the bench.
A year ago when he
credit that to being great coaching, no?
I'm just saying, a year ago when he lost to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, they were ready to lynch him in Boston.
Yes.
And then the next year, it's, oh my God, Mazzola's the greatest coach in the history of the history. Like, he had the secret plan to injure Jimmy Butler, Donovan Mitchell.
Halliburton goes down. Right?
Yeah, like on us, the NBA in terms of the way they treat coaches is a very strange league. It really is. It's a really weird league in terms of the way.
Oh, no doubt, and it's a short league usually, but I don't know that it is totally, so far this year. Well, these are things that we can start to gravitate a little bit more towards. Although they did steal the news cycle spotlight with a shocker of a deal, and the most unfathomable part. I remember I was watching one of those ESPN panel shows they had assembled when they were on 24-hour LeBron James watch. You recall that? And you had seen all of the ridiculousness of, guys, the billionaires like Mickey Arison with Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg, and they're all in a car, stuffed in there in some rental car, just driving through the night so they can get a shot to grovel at the feet of LeBron James and beg him to become part of the franchise. And you're thinking to yourself, what level will these people reduce themselves to to satisfy the ego of a star player in the NBA? But
I'm shocked, Mickey didn't name a boat the LeBron of the seas.
How did he not have a cruise ship? I mean, maybe he does. Maybe under some bogus company that they set up somewhere in Delaware. LeBron actually owns 2 major cruise ships. So that's entirely possible. But I remember watching the show, and they had a show about, the LeBron watch on ESPN, and they had everybody, every insider. They had Windhorst. They had Woj at the time. I think even Adam Schefter was sitting on the panel there. And then remember, LeBron made this announcement through some, affiliation with Sports Illustrated or whatever. And they were all sitting there speculating like we were about, what were the, at the roots of the Luka Doncic deal. And then all of a sudden they look at their phones in total shock as it's already been announced that he was going to the Miami Heat.
I mean, honestly, though, is it for those of us in the business, the sports, and I think for fans too, as much fun as we make of it? And
no, that he was going to Cleveland. That was when he was going to Cleveland.
Excuse me. As much fun as we make it of it, and when it goes too far, it is just interminable. And this is something we really love. Is just the speculation we can make up about trades and moves and whatnot. And trades like this fuel it. When some idiot is like, you know what I think we should do? I think we should, trade. We should trade Tua to Kansas City for Mahomes and Chris Jones and Kelsey. Oh yeah, sure. And we should get a couple first-round draft picks back in the deal.
And Andy Reid as coach.
And and we in the media like, I can't deal with this idiot anymore. I hang up on him. But then a trade like this happens, and those people, it just fuels their fire. Like, hey, well, the Mavs traded Doncic for nothing, for a big pile of crap. It never happens in the NFL, but
you don't see a lot of straight up player trades in the NFL.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is like the play, because I mean, really, today we can come on air and we can make up really anything about Luka Doncic.
Sure.
And it's pretty much as true as anything else anybody's speculating on.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many things being written and said, none of which really particularly have any great depth to them, as far as I can see.
Right.
So we don't know. I mean, and there's Nico Harrison that was on there explaining his position there in front of a stunned Jason Kidd, who kind of had that look like Joe Philbin did when Jeff Ireland came down and said he had traded the cornerback, and Philbin's got this blank look on his face on Hard Knocks and goes, "Oh, you did?"
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And then you had this whole De'Aaron Fox thing where he wasn't going to stay with the Sacramento Kings any longer. Zach LaVine has been one of those guys that always seemed to be teetering on the idea that Chicago was not for him. And where did these third teams get nothing? I mean, these are the most bizarre deals. I know they have to trade dollar for dollar or whatever on the salaries, which makes it a lot of stuff prohibitive. But and now teams will throw in 5 first-round draft picks.
Correct.
And then there's some other team out of nowhere that gets involved, like Utah, and you look and like, what did they get? Nothing. What did they give up? Nothing. What the fuck were they involved in the deal?
Exactly. Because the salary cap thing is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
The best one I saw at all of this is Rudy Gobert got traded for 4 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic got traded for 1.
Pretty amazing, yeah.
Doesn't really seem fair, does it?
I kind of like this too, where you have a player, and the Bulls got their own draft pick back as part of that transaction with De'Aaron Fox. So, and there are 4 players, a little trivia to end the show. 4 players, Major League Baseball history, that became the player to be named later in a trade for themselves.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Goes back to one of my favorites. I had anybody that grew up, a century ago, like I did, probably had a zillion Harry Cheedy baseball cards. He was one of them. He was traded from Cleveland to the Mets, and then the Mets traded him back as the player to be named later to Cleveland.
The only player to be named later that sticks out in my mind is, I believe, Willie McGee of the St. Louis Cardinals was a player to be named. He didn't get traded for himself.
But he didn't get traded for himself. Yeah.
They got traded to St. Louis as a player to be named later, and obviously went on to win a couple batting titles and a bunch of all-star games.
Usually these guys are pretty low level on the scrub list, you would have to say. I think the most famous was Dickie Knowles, was a pitcher with the Cubs, traded to Detroit and then traded back to the Cubs as the player to be named later.
Nice.
But that's part of the element. I mean, that's how bizarre these NBA deals are when they involve like a third and a fourth and a fifth team. Because they end up literally, and in this case, you had the Bulls reacquiring their own first-round draft pick that they had traded away in a previous deal to the San Antonio Spurs.
But if you're looking for subtleties in this trade, the one I remember sticking out is, I guess, Oklahoma City has one or two draft swaps with the Dallas Mavericks coming up in the next. I think the first one's in 28, and the second one's like in 31 or something. So in some ways, the Oklahoma City Thunder might be the subtle winner of this trade if the Dallas Mavericks just fall to crap, and we see Oklahoma City somehow end up with like the number 1 draft pick in 2028 because of it.
First game out of the shoot, Cleveland 144, Dallas 101.
There you go.
Cleveland laying 15 and a hook in this ball game.
How much for they traded him because they didn't like his defense, huh?
It was 50-19 after the first quarter. 91-40. This is like a UConn game against some junior college for women's basketball.
Yeah.
Where Gino just leaves the starters in until the final 12.
They're going to be a much better defensive team without Luka. Not so much the first time out of the box.
91-46 at halftime before Dallas redeemed themselves by playing a little bit harder in the second half. All right, Professor, great job. We'll do it again tomorrow, and then you're off the hook. At least for a couple of days. Lubie will be making his return to the program on Wednesday. Welcome in the people from Bleacher Brothers who weren't able to get access to the YouTube channel version of this program and so many other platforms where A.J. Johnson, the great A.J. Johnson, is now distributing the show. So we thank him for getting that squared away. And we will see you tomorrow.
Before we go, I got one question I want everybody to ponder for tomorrow's show. I just saw on the Today Show, before we came on the air, a segment talking about Angel Reese and how she
got ejected from like a 3-on-3 game or something.
She did. And on her podcast, she did a big segment about paying off her mom's mortgage. So here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Does Angel Reese's mom live in a house that costs like $20,000? Or is Angel Reese doing something above and beyond her salary that somehow allows her to pay off like a normal sized mortgage? Because I'm watching this, I'm like, doesn't she make like $60,000?
I think, though, no doubt she's got all kinds of endorsements. Probably had big money, though, from NIL, no? She might have made more money as a collegian.
I don't know. I don't know what women's basketball players make. I mean, I'm sure Caitlin Clark cleaned up, but I don't know. I mean, if you're the player everybody hates, does that lead to big NIL dollars? I'm just saying it's a mystery.
Was instrumental in them. What did they win a title with Angel Reese? Was she LSU?
They did when she was a sophomore, and they came back.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just saying, like, does Angel Reese's mom live in a trailer in an alligator-infested swamp?
These unrivaled salaries, though, are good. The new league there with the 3-on-3. It's full court, like a mini full court, like the park down the street there.
Yeah, it's like the way they play girls basketball in Iowa.
Yeah, where guys like Marty the Party Sachs and my friend Tony Martonsha can still go out there and run full. But then you look and you go, yeah, but that full is like the size of a half court.
Yeah.
Why don't we install 9-foot baskets while you're at it and we can all dunk? You might have to lower that to 8 feet.
I mean, honestly, that might be the best. Maybe she could shoot if you lowered it to 9 feet.
Yeah, but I would imagine Angel Reese has some capital behind her.
Okay, you're killing my fun with the making fun.
Yeah, I mean, one sponsorship by eyelashes or whatever would probably carry her to wild, inconceivable amounts of riches. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks, Professor. A blast. I don't know that we really nailed that Doncic for Anthony Davis trade, but
I don't think anybody has. Like, I don't think anybody.
They were no worse than anybody else, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the level of entertainment.
We're being honest with the fans. Like, anything we say, we're just making up.
Yeah,
we're just taking something we read somewhere and running with it because it sounds right to us.
Guy's a bloated pig, man. Remember, I mean, Ricky Hatton used to blow up from like 147, 140 to 199 between fights, and you would look at the guy, you didn't even recognize him, man. You were like, who the fuck is that, right? What happened to you? Like he showed up at a reunion, and then all of a sudden, he get right down to 140 and take one in the face from Manny Pacquiao and start eating himself again out of misery. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks, Professor. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
A happy day.